So here's the good news, is the basics are getting much easier. So I don't know how you view technology. I find that there's pretty wide variances where people can really embrace it or people are very resistant to it. And I'd ask you just kind of open your mind for a moment and consider the possibility that technology can actually make your life much easier, and I'll show you how. This is a little dark, but this is what one community did to reduce their turnover by 21%. They just did 4 simple things. They implemented a work order follow-up. They put a big emphasis on maintenance being done right the first time. They asked if there was, they followed up to make sure problems don't still exist. And then they asked the residents if they were likely to renew. So all this really shows is in 2007, they didn't do any work order follow-up. In 2008, they increased that to 67%. So the effect of that was their maintenance done right the first time went from 80% to 91%. Problems still existing dropped from 19% to 10%. And very likely to renew went from 54% to 75%. So that's a 21% increase just by implementing a few of these back-to-basic strategies. So what are these strategies? And the best kind of strategy is a low-cost or a no-cost one. I'm sure you guys can appreciate that. So the simplest things to do are implement a system to capture emails and phone numbers. So this can be as simple as an Excel sheet, right? Now this might sound basic to some of you, but I do know some fairly reputable companies out there that don't collect their resident information on a regular basis. And if they have that resident information, they don't keep it up to date. You can check with the resident almost every month. They're paying rent or you're having those interactions. You can get your staff on the end of that conversation, oh, by the way, are you still at this phone number? Are you still using this email address? To make sure that your communication is actually getting through. Follow up on every service call, just with a friendly, how did it go? Where I have repairs sometimes and maybe there was 2 things, they only did 1. It would mean a lot to me if I didn't have to chase them down again if they followed up and said, oh, how is everything? We missed something. Okay, we'll come solve that. Return resident calls quickly. That's pretty basic. Another valuable one is when a resident will put in a work order and something happens to it. It gets lost in the shuffle, and they have no idea of knowing whether they've received it from you or not. So if you can send them just a quick acknowledgement, because you have their email, you have their phone, hey, we got your work order, our maintenance guy's very busy right now, he should be around in the next day or 2, thanks for doing that. That means a lot to residents, and that's a simple, free way that you can build that relationship and keep them happy. It also avoids the really awkward situation of the angry resident who's been putting up with the running toilet for a few days, and they say, I put in this request 3 days ago, nothing happened, and what's wrong with you guys? If you have those systems in place, then you avoid the even worse situation. So, I was saying that this is getting easier, and this is the point. This is how all these basics are getting easier. There's software now that you can get for very reasonable price, and we're actually working to get a stripped down version of this for free, which you can email me about, that just automates it. So enter automation, and this is what's so beautiful about software. So someone puts in a work order, and they get that acknowledgement instantly from your computer. You don't even have to do it, right? So I don't know if you've ever been shopping online or you've done something like that where you get that sort of instant gratification that just says, thank you for your order. And maybe it shows your order. You've ordered 1 t-shirt and a little more information. That always feels good because, in that case, you're giving money. In this case, you're asking something of your property manager just to have that instant acknowledgement. But as a busy property manager, if you can get software to do that for you every time, then why wouldn't we do that? If you have the ability to receive parcels, when you get a parcel, it would automatically notify the resident. Booking requests for rooms. When the repair is completed, and your maintenance guy can go in and say, it's complete, so there'll also be an email sent to the resident saying that this repair has been completed. Another big benefit is data management. Creates an audit trail within the building. Everything's stored, back up, and organized. The residents have the peace of mind knowing that all their information is backed up. One thing I've noticed using a software like this is if you have a resident who seems to be constantly complaining, but you have no way of proving that, whether that's for your boss or just for your own sanity, this will it'll document all the issues, all the complaints, all the requests, and you can see that, Susie Q has been 12 of your last 14 service requests, right? And it makes it very easy to identify who are sort of your high maintenance customers so that you can, put special attention towards those people or take it to your management and say, there's this person causing this many issues, and they just don't have to take your word for it. You can actually show them. You can say, look what's happened in the past month. Useful. And another thing that the software like this does is it's just where we're going. A good example is, imagine your resident is just moved in. They've maybe been there 2 weeks, and they're at a furniture store. They're downtown. They're going to buy a whole new couch set. So there's a few processes they have to go through because they're in a high-rise building, like booking the elevator. So when you have a software, the resident could go on their phone, book the elevator using the software, and then be able to tell the people at the furniture store, okay, you can deliver it on Monday at 2 p.m. I've got the elevator booked. And it's just seamless integration into a wireless society. And then there's, value as. We'll get into that later. So, it's your decision. I don't know why. I just found this picture of a 1950s salesman type guy who was exhausted. And this is how I feel sometimes when I'm not streamlining my systems. I'm doing everything manually. I'm doing the same tasks over and over. Or you can sort of use the software that's available to you and experience the ease of that. Okay, so this is where I'm going to transition. I've covered the basics, and now I want to move into partly social media and how that relates to resident retention. So I'm the only person here in the conference that's talking about retention, and you've heard a lot of stuff, and I'm very sensitive to overlap. I don't want to bore you. I feel like Jeff and Brock did a great job at really covering what social media is about, why it's important, and what my job is to do is to show you how that can relate directly to your resident retention. And I'm going to start with expectations. So, in the past, I hope you can see this. There's this is what I call the value curve. Okay, so right here is meeting physical needs, and this is informational, and this is what I would call the basics. Okay, so this is kind of what we've already covered. And traditionally, this is all a resident has required. Okay? As a property manager, I think it was Jeff who was talking about it before, you could be that faceless person without a brand, without a web presence, and just do business that way. But as we move into the social era and residents' expectations are starting to change, what I'm going to argue is that social media is the perfect way to meet those new needs and those new desires that your residents have. And the way that you can do that is meeting their emotional needs and creating a sense of genuine community. Now, emotional comes across a little flaky, but what I mean by emotional needs is that the sort of the expectation of instant gratification and the expectation of your voice being heard and being able to express yourself. So that's where we are today. So how can social media help you? And I don't want to get into, I don't want to overlap too much. So there's lots of choices, and the other guys were talking about that. Our focus is Facebook. There's lots of interesting things going on at YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter. I've read lots of stuff about people actually getting leases on Twitter. But it is from a retention point of view, I personally don't see a lot of value right now in Twitter. So if you just think about what Twitter is, it's a constant feed of information. I miss probably, 10 out of every 12 tweets that go by. If I'm a property manager and I'm trying to communicate with my residents that way, I feel that there is a high probability that they won't see it. And as a Twitter user, I don't know if I would see a lot of value in following my property manager, because I'm looking for interesting articles. Maybe could. I won't say that. There might be some value, but just the way that there's so much information spitting out of there constantly, it's very easy to get lost in the mix. So what we've decided to do as a company is to focus on Facebook. And you guys are getting a lot of information, so from here on out it's pretty simple. I'm just going to talk about Facebook, because we feel as a company, as far as retention goes, Facebook is where it's at. Because Facebook's all about relationships, and what we're trying to help you do is build that relationship with your resident, and this is the best way. So simple, we'll only talk about Facebook. Now, a quick question before I flip to the next slide. I don't know how many people here are from the GTA, I'm assuming most of you, but how many people do you think are on Facebook in the GTA? How many people live in the GTA? If we, I know, well, sorry, not hands. Is it what? How many people live in the GTA? Is it 3 million? 4 million? 6 million? 6? So let's say there's 6. I'm not talking about downtown. I'm talking about the whole area. So there's 6 million people that live in the GTA. How many of those are above 18? We could probably say maybe 4.5. Okay, so 4.5. So if you look at Facebook, oh, I forgot about my wise words. We'll get back to that. This was in November. So out of 4.5 18 or older, 2.5 million are on Facebook. This was in November. So that's obviously a massive penetration for a single website. So this isn't, Americans. This is people in the GTA. Canadians have a ridiculously high engagement level with social media, highest in the world. And so we need to be on there. A few months later, I went back on there. This was about mid-January. So in the span of 2 months, Facebook added another 100,000 users, which is pretty remarkable considering that Facebook's already old news. It's not a new concept. It's not, as far as the bell curve goes, we're definitely cresting at the top, and they're still adding about 50,000 people a month just in the GTA area. And to me, Facebook is the gorilla, and that's why we're focusing on it. There was some stats earlier that would back that up, so I can just hope we're all on board. So this has already been talked about a bit too, but I want to show this side because I love this picture. So this is the word of mouth. The old word of mouth is two people talking, but this is two people talking, and then there's an audience watching. Okay, so if you can think about how that applies to your building, what I was talking about before, it's all about customer service. So when people are thinking about property management, thinking about a building, they want to see, A, if the people seem reasonable that they could live with or be neighbors with. They want to see how their property manager deals with their residents. And Facebook allows that conversation to take place with hundreds, even thousands of people watching. And that's so powerful. And another one is anyone can be Oprah, right? We've kind of touched about this. I just really like this picture of Oprah. She's definitely thrilled. Be happy. She's a very powerful woman. Be happy if I was her too. So anyone can do this. And what I mean by anyone can be Oprah, anyone can influence, right? So this goes, like we've said, good and bad.